Not too long ago, Miblar did a giveaway with me where the winner would get a premium cover design. That winner just happened to be Jenny Hansen Lane. Jenny is a YouTuber and low content book publisher, and she's actually been very active in this space for quite some time, having published over 400 titles. Yeah, she'll explain that here inside this interview. You'll get a little bit more insights. But I found one of her strategies very interesting when it comes to cover design and how she's able to vet whether a cover design performs really well or not so well by leveraging Amazon advertising. In fact, she even goes into a little bit of the data and analytics and how she makes her decision on what cover stays and what cover goes. So without any further ado, let's get into the interview with Jenny Hansen Lane. Jenny, great to finally get connected with you. We actually ended up crossing paths through the Miblar giveaway. Share with me, what was that experience like for you? And did you expect to win when you had entered?
Good question. Thanks for offering the chance to talk. I have loved following your content, and I feel like you're everywhere. So I really love all the angles that you bring to your channel. I'm always like, no one says it like Dell says it. So I entered the contest like, ooh, this is cool. But I didn't really have the time to market it. I love gamification. I'm certified in a form of gamification, and that's like motivating people to do things. And so the giveaway was like, you get more points if you do things. But I didn't have the bandwidth to do the things. But I was like, I've never heard of this company. I love cover creation. Like, let's go for it. So I had no expectations. And even you had to, you gave me 48 hours to find you online after I won. So it was a big surprise.
It was funny, actually, on my end of things. I'm not sure if I shared with you that I was kind of freaking out because the giveaway prior to yours, the first person we pulled didn't get back to me. It was like 2 full weeks. And of course, Miblart's like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, they were like, give them a 2-day rule from now on. And I'm like, okay, we'll do that. So when I didn't hear from you, I ended up putting everything out to like social media. I sent another email broadcast and then you showed up and I was like, yes, but I was elated to discover that you're already pretty deep in this space here on YouTube. So we'll come back to book covers here in just a second. What do you do on YouTube and how long have you been doing it for?
Yeah, so I almost missed your notification because I took my kids to Hilton Head for fall break and my book income stream paid for that trip. So I've been publishing
Nice.
on Amazon since 2022. January 4th I didn't know my book would take 3 days to go live. And then my first month I made $19 and I was like, I didn't email anybody and I didn't have to answer my front door and I did it while my kids were at school. I'm not going to stop. And so I just kept publishing. 489 books later, it crossed 6 figures. I was like, this is a real thing. This is amazing.
Wow, 489 books. You got to walk that one back because I'm sure everybody who's listening to this podcast right now probably is soiling their pants. How long did it take you to publish that many books, and what types of books are landing and which ones aren't landing for you?
Yes, great question. So when I started, I didn't know, my background's in marketing. I had a sales funnel. I learned Facebook ads in 2019 and I grew the sales funnel. It was $27 and I grew it to $35,000 in 40 days. And I was like, making money online
Congrats.
is magical. And then COVID hit and the cost to acquire a customer got very expensive. So I couldn't scale an ad that was
Oh, yeah.
$27. And so I decided to repurpose my course about being authentic online into a book. And I just decided I'm going to self-publish. But then once I published books, I saw, oh, you can do a line journal. And I always change every year that I get a new planner, there's something wrong with it. I'm that picky. And so I thought, wow, I could create my own. And so literally low content. And for those of you listening, low content is anything with repeated pages. That's all I did. And it was before there was an upload limit. So I did 200 books in 30 days, just thinking like if you put stuff up, people would buy it. I didn't understand about supply and demand. So it took
Yeah.
a little while. So 489 books later, 121 of them make me money. And those are, I would say 90% of those are low content. They're line journals, they're planners, they're prompt journals. My kids have a coloring book line. They bought their first Nintendo Switch. I only have 2 high content books. So I
Nice.
really want to get into high content because you can really repurpose a lot of that and turn them into audiobooks. So
And I think that's what you ended up putting together for this Miblart giveaway, because you ended up getting the premium package, which they gave you everything in the kitchen sink and such. Share with me that project. When do you plan on launching that? What are the plans?
yeah, so with my background in marketing, I have an email list. I have a community that's called the Income Stream Makers Movement. And it's just really about building income streams online so you don't have to rely on any one income stream. And so the book is just designed to help people know that you don't need 8 or 9 income streams. You know that. And just a way to help people know that there is a somewhat passive way to do it. And I just decided to test out with my giveaway, the book, to see how well the cover does. And with my background in marketing, we're always testing things. You know, you test 2 different funnels, you test 2 different ad copy. And the really crazy thing that no one really talks about is that if your book is not doing good on Amazon advertising platform in a campaign, you can literally upload a new cover. And so you have that A/B testing. So I was really excited to use a company that premium quality. I wasn't in there digging in Canva or ordering something from who knows where off Fiverr. I was just like, this is really cool.
So this brings up a really good point. And this is not us trying to shill for Miblart and such. What were some of the cover design services you've used before or you have done before Miblart, and how did it compare to using Miblart?
Yeah, so I have tried lots of different artists on Fiverr, and I think that's a
Okay.
great place to find something that's budget friendly, but then also kind of navigate. There's going to be artists that have certain styles, and I really feel like, I'm not a fantasy writer yet. I don't think I barely read fantasy. That is one of my, I guess, red flags in publishing is I just don't really get into it. So I really wanted to just explore what they could do. But I will tell you, I gave them examples of books I have loved reading. And so what I got back was very like, I felt true to my audience would like it. And I was just
Mhm.
very impressed with the quality. And so it sometimes when you hire out and you have a lower price point, I think you go through more revisions. And this wasn't the case with them. There was a very minor things that we thought, okay, this might be better this way. Let's switch this. But for the most part, it was like, wow, it's done.
Yeah, it was really cool, the touch that they did with the balloons on there, and then you were like, "Hey, what if you move that balloon over there and replace it?" So, as far as that creative process goes, how much revisions did you have to do before they got it right?
I would say maybe two. And
Wow.
and they got the colors right, they got the font right, like, the really great thing about them is they ask the right questions, and I always tell people information leads to inspiration, and so anytime you can dictate exactly what you're looking for in a type of product or a book to be made, if you have a better idea of what you want it to be and you can direct a designer, you're gonna be better off than just like, "Well, let me see what you think is best." They don't know your customer avatar like you do, and so I think that makes a big difference.
So, what goes into making the ideal book cover, something that would be less friction and back and forth? Because it's very clear you've got a good grasp on communicating with your designer your needs, because I mean with 2 revisions that's stellar. There's been some times where I've seen some people work with cover designers that go through a dozen revisions, and I'm not even exaggerating at this point. So what makes a good design brief?
I think that's a great question. My degree is actually in art with printmaking. So I've hand bound books myself. And I
Nice.
always broke the design rules before learning them. But I would say, like, knowing your customer's desired result is a really big deal when you're creating a book. And so I knew if I could try to put it in a visual representation, what would that look like? And the book will be about passive income streams. And a balloon just seemed like it made sense lifting off and really giving you that freedom. And so little things like that, I think nuances we can learn from in even looking at our own bookshelf, like, why did we buy that book? What was in there? And so I think really putting the customer first and thinking about the desired results is going to be more beneficial. I had a customer that wanted to help people save marriages, and she put a bunch of fire flames on the book cover. And I just don't think it gave that message for romance. And it was more like, oh, that's scary. Is that an insurance claim? So just kind of thinking about the customer, right? If we think about the customer
Yeah.
first, we're going to be able to have a better experience, and they're going to have a better experience too.
Yeah, for some reason, flames makes me think dumpster fire. It's like, I might not want that one.
Yeah.
At what point do you think it's okay for somebody to do a cover themselves or hire out? Because obviously you have an extensive experience in art. So you're definitely a bit more qualified than, say, I am.
I don't know. You're pretty qualified. I would say that if you
Thanks.
enjoy it, that's half the battle. For me,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that my peers and other entrepreneurs, they outsource. And for design, like I could sit there and make those 200 notebooks when I was starting because it was really fun for me. And so I think there's
Yeah.
so much technology out there now, even software like Canva, where you can go into Canva and you can type in book cover. And there's tons of designers that are giving you examples of what they think is a book cover and or what is a great design. And so I think just studying what's out there, looking what's on your bookshelf, but then also testing things out can really make or break your book covers and just your experience. So it's a loaded question, right? Because every customer is different. But I would say just studying design and really seeing like, why did you buy this book?
Hmm. So at what point is it a good time investment for me to say, for instance, like whenever I sit down and I do my own cover, it will take me upwards of 3, 4, maybe even 5 days, hours at a time, obviously. And I get a semi passable one versus, say, stopping and going, you know what, let me go find somebody on Midblart or Fiverr or Get Covers or any of the other design services.
The big question is this: can I compete with what's already out there? And if I
Mm.
see a cover that I'm like, I can't, then I do need to hire it out. But if I see a coloring book or something where I'm like, that cover is so bad, bless their heart, they tried, I can out, I can out design them.
You blessed their heart. You're like, yeah, that's all right. As soon as you bless their heart, you know darn well it's like, well, we're in a different ball game here
I
altogether.
mean, yeah.
That's so cool to
Well, and the
hear.
reality is we all start somewhere, right? We are all crappy
Yeah.
before we're great. And I tell people like, deficits determine destiny. Like you have to be kind of like learning. I mean, 489 books and like 200 of them don't even make me money. Like that was just me willing to put in the work, do the cringe and figure it out.
That's so cool. Did you ever find like a cover that you put together that was complete garbage, probably to you, but then sold, or vice versa?
Yes, I found a niche that I really was passionate about, but had nothing to do with my business. And that put me in a weird
Yeah.
position with KDP. You've probably experienced that where you would love to go build a brand around it and push emails to it, but it just didn't really make sense. And kind of what this customer looked for was not something I would really put on my shelf. And so it was really interesting iterating on that cover and creating things like that. Because a lot of these that took off were just notebooks. And so I do think it is really interesting to take a keyword that's in demand and then try to communicate that keyword in a book cover, right? Like it's one thing to slap on text, but it's another thing to think this is actually what the customer is looking for.
So we've kind of gone through some of these other items here. What I would love to do is back up just a bit. You were talking about doing some split testing for covers. Share with me your split testing process. How do you flush out like the best design possible? And how would other authors that are listening to this or self-publishers that are listening to this could be able to apply that in their own business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that big ammo question that I ask myself is if I can actually compete in that niche, can I create a cover that's just as nice or similar? And then once I have the book published and I turn on Amazon book ads, I really want to pay attention to the click-through rate. The click-through rate dictates how many times people are actually touching my book. And I always think about it in a physical format. If someone's coming into my Barnes and Noble, are they actually interacting with the book? And so The rule is if you get a lot of impressions, but you're not getting clicks, then that is a cover issue. And so if I get anything kind of in the 0.30%, and I know that the niche is in demand, then it is probably time to either go iterate on the cover, hire out somebody to try to outdesign what I could do, or start from the basis. I think the cool thing about self-publishing is the book is not, the inside is not garbage, right? Those are what reviews dictate. But the cover you can really iterate on. And I love self-publishing because I always tell people like nothing's permanent except your subtitle, your author name, and your title. But like, if the cover is not converting, let's elevate it, especially if it makes money, but it could be better. That's such a great opportunity to update.
Interesting. So you're leveraging Amazon advertising to figure out what is working, what isn't working. How much are you having to invest in something like that? And is there a more cost-effective approach to figuring out whether or not a book is converting well?
Yeah, I think peer reviews is a great way. If you have friends or family that might be your customer niche, you could post on Facebook or any social media and say, what cover do you like more? And people are opinionated. They will tell you. But when I started Amazon ads, I had a background in Facebook ads. And so I decided that I would only put in money that I got from my book income stream. My KDP royalties had to pay for my ads. And so once I had that $47 royalty hit my bank account, I turned on my ads and allocated $47 a month to do so. And it started converting. And so I just kept scaling. At the time of this recording, I have spent over $25,000 on Amazon ads in 19 months. Woo. And I've sold over $132,000 in book sales. So what that's communicating is conversion. Every dollar I'm putting in, I'm getting $3 back in sales. And so the really cool thing that people don't really talk about, and this is what I really love coaching people on with Amazon ads, is that when you do give Amazon money, they give you data back. So they're letting you know, people like this cover, they're clicking on it, or people don't like this cover, but you don't know that until you're actually putting your book out in front of a lot of people. And so the really neat thing when you start spending with Amazon ads is when you do an automatic ad, you can look at customer search terms. And so you can actually see what customers are typing in before they buy their book. And I would take that information and I would iterate on it. And so that's how I was able to build 121 books that sold, because I knew exactly what the customer was looking for.
About how many ads are you running for all of that? Because I mean, $25,000 is nothing to sneeze at. I'm sure there's some people that would love to spend that much.
Yeah. So I probably have about 40 campaigns is all for my 120 books.
Wow.
So
how much work does that require for you to manage that? Is that something you're looking at daily, weekly, monthly?
When I first started, I was really trying to scale a book quickly. And so I would look at it daily, but now I look at my account weekly and just try to keep it in maintenance mode. I do have some campaigns that I do need to check on, because if you want to accelerate your results, you can raise your daily budget and your daily bid. And with Q4 right now, it's getting more competitive. So I will probably check it at least once a day.
Yeah, it gets pretty crazy. How do you feel about the suggested bids in Amazon advertising's dashboard? Do you always go with the suggested bids, or is there like a baseline you start with?
So my favorite strategy, I named the MO strategy. It's inspired by Michelle Obama when they asked her, like, what do you do with the haters? And she was like, when they go low, I go high. And I was thinking about, what if I went really high on Amazon? And so a lot of my books, once they're published, I'll put a daily amount of $1,000 and I'll start at 2 cents. And 2 cents is nothing.
Wow.
It's nothing.
Nice.
But I'm telling Amazon, do not show this to anybody unless they're willing to click on it for 2 or 4 pennies. And then every couple hours I scale it. And then I had an ad when it got to 9 cents, it started taking off. And so I think the suggested amount is nice, but I don't think that it's Bible, and it doesn't know your customer like you do, because you went through the whole creation process to create a great book. And so I prefer to slowly scale up. I have some clients that are like, I couldn't do it, Jenny. I couldn't start at 2 cents. I started at 39 cents. And I'm like, that's fine. You're still going to get data. But I really like scaling in that way so I can find that sweet spot. And I would also say sometimes the suggested is a little bit higher in more competitive niches. And if you're not narrowly targeting, sometimes you could be wasting a couple more pennies than you needed to, versus going a little bit slower and scaling kind of more thoughtfully.
Is there ever a specific CTR that you're looking for to see a good conversion that you're like, ooh, this is the cover that I want to? Because you briefly kind of threw out, I'm not sure if it was an arbitrary number of 0.30%. Is there a CTR that you like to see?
That's a great question because my background in Facebook ads, you want a CTR of 1%. So when I started turning on Amazon ads, I was like,
Okay.
how is this book selling? And the CTR is under 1%. And no one could tell me, no ads expert said that that was an important barometer or parameter. The only thing they told me is if you're not getting clicks, it's a cover problem. And so I've been able to
Yeah.
scale books and have a good, healthy ACost with under 1% click-through rate. But if I have something lower, sometimes if you have something lower than 1%, it could be the wrong customer base. So it's really hard to actually
Targeting.
know exactly what is the problem every time. There's just a lot of troubleshooting.
Yeah, boy, we could probably spend, I'm sure, the next couple of hours just talking about Amazon advertising. In fact, I would love to have you back maybe sometime in the near future because this has been a fun chat. But I do need to start to wrap things up, and I want to ask you the question I ask everybody else. What advice do you have for aspiring authors and self-publishers out there?
That your voice matters and that the experiences that you have are unique to you. There's no such thing as competition because there's too many variables. No one thinks the way you do. No one does the things that you do. And so it's very likely that you need to publish that idea inside of you to impact other people.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingwithdale.com for more information on how you can level up your self-publishing business. Also, check out our growing video on demand service, chock full of free and premium content, when you head over to theselfpublishinghub.com. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your preferred podcasting platform. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.